You're sitting at your desk, scrolling through a dozen mini PC listings, and the same question keeps popping up: will this actually handle my day-to-day work without turning into an expensive paperweight? I get it, you don't want to throw money at a sleek box that looks good on paper, but ends up slowing you down when you open Excel, jump on a Zoom call, or need to pull a big PDF at the last minute. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's break down the HP Pro 400 Business Mini Computer and see if it really fits the kind of hustle you're looking to support, or if it's just another gadget that will collect dust. First off, the thing that makes the Pro 400 stand out is its footprint. It's about the size of a thick book, which means you can tuck it under a standing desk, slip it onto a shelf, or even mount it behind a monitor if you're trying to keep a clean workspace. That kind of compactness is a real win for anyone whose office real estate is at a premium. Think of a home office in a spare bedroom, or a small consulting firm that only has a couple of desks. The chassis feels solid. HP's reputation for durability shows up in the metal frame and the rubber feet that keep the unit from sliding around when you're typing or reaching for a cable. You won't have the wobble you sometimes get with cheaper plastic shells, and that steadiness matters when you're doing video calls and don't want the whole thing to shake. Now, the performance side is where the Pro 400 tries to convince you it's more than just a pretty box. Inside, you get an Intel performance processor paired with a massive 64 GB of RAM and a 2 TB PCIe SSD. In everyday terms, that means opening a spreadsheet with a few thousand rows, switching between Outlook, Teams, and a web browser, and still having a couple of tabs left for research feels smooth. The SSD is fast enough that you'll notice the difference when you launch Windows 11 Pro, no more waiting a minute for the desktop to appear after a reboot. For a small business owner who needs to pull up invoices, edit a contract, and jump on a conference call in quick succession, those specs translate to less idle time and more productive minutes. One of the practical strengths I noticed is the dual 4K display support. You can hook up two high-resolution monitors via the HDMI and the USB-C ports and get crisp, clear visuals across both screens. If you're a data analyst or a designer who needs a lot of screen real estate for dashboards and timelines, this setup can replace a bulky tower and a separate graphics card. The USB-C also carries power and video, so you can keep your cable clutter down. Just one cable from the PC to a monitor that also powers a laptop if you need that kind of flexibility. The connectivity suite is pretty comprehensive. You've got Wi-Fi 6 for faster, more reliable wireless internet, which is a nice upgrade if your office router supports it, and a handful of USB-A and USB-C ports for peripherals. The included keyboard and mouse are functional, not flashy, but they do the job, and you don't have to hunt around for a basic set. That's a small convenience that adds up, especially if you're ordering the whole package for a new office setup. Of course, no device is perfect, and the Pro 400 has a few trade-offs that are worth flagging before you click Add to Cart. First, the lack of a dedicated graphics card means it's not built for heavy 3D rendering, video editing at high resolutions, or any kind of gaming beyond the occasional indie title. The integrated graphics can handle everyday tasks and even drive two 4K monitors, but if your workflow relies on Photoshop layers or Premiere timelines, you'll feel the pinch. Second, because it's a mini form factor, the internal upgrade path is limited. The RAM is already maxed out at 64 GB, but if you ever wanted to swap out the SSD for a larger one, you'll have to open the case, which isn't as straightforward as with a traditional desktop. That's fine if you're comfortable with a bit of tinkering, but it does mean the unit is more or less a buy-and-see and live with it scenario. Pricing is another angle to consider. The Pro 400 isn't the cheapest mini PC on the market. You're paying for the HP brand, the high-capacity SSD, and the bundled accessories. If you compare it to a bare-bones Intel NUC that you could customize yourself, the Pro 400 might feel a little steep. However, the value comes from the all-in-one nature of the package. You get a pre-installed Windows 11 Pro license, a solid-state drive big enough for most business archives, a keyboard and mouse, and a machine that's ready to sit on a desk out of the box. For a small company that doesn't have an IT department to assemble a system, that convenience can justify the extra dollars. So, who should actually reach for